Dragon Ball Z Kakarot is finally almost here. Now, is this the Dragon Ball game to finally realize the potential of the open-ish world, quest and story-driven RPG gameplay in the Dragon Ball universe? Or will it miss the mark? I mean, we'll decide finally when it releases, but before it does, let's get you caught up with everything you need to know. We got 10 things, so let's get started off with number 10 and talk about the story. Now, there was some confusion around the announcement of the game as to how much of the Dragon Ball Z timeline it was going to cover. This was only made more confusing when we got the name Dragon Ball Z Kakarot at E3, since at first they only showed stuff from the first few arcs of the series leading up to the big fight with Frieza and Goku going into Super Saiyan for the first time. Well, now we know that the game will cover all of the big sagas from the series, as we've seen stuff from the Saiyan, Namek, Cell, and Buu sagas in trailers and even playable at events. It's a really good thing to see because there's a lot of story to tell in the Dragon Ball Z timeline, and it's great to have it all in one complete package rather than having to wait for them to be released as sequels like Dragon Ball Z Cell and Dragon Ball Z Majin Buu. We get it all. So we're really pumped to see how it turns out and like how they end up handling it all. It's such a long, now 30-year-old story, so seeing it be adopted yet again, but as a modern console game, it's gonna be pretty interesting, honestly. Now over at number 9, while it's cool that we're getting all of the major plot points covered in Dragon Ball Z Kakarot, for quite a while it was assumed that it would be more or less the updated, streamlined, reissued Dragon Ball Z Kai, which stripped out over 100 episodes of more filler content and other side stories that just weren't essential to the main plot. That said, we do know, thanks to an article in Jump magazine translated by Silicon Era, that some of that filler content from the original series will be present in Kakarot, specifically mentioning the very, very good filler episode where Goku and Piccolo have to go to driving school, and it will even include its own minigame. That's the stuff that some fans really do care about, and it's good that it's here. It's going to be interesting to see how much of the side stories and filler arcs will make their way into this, because they have to make cuts, otherwise the game will be 1,000 hours long. But we're hoping to have some more stuff, like the Garlic Jr. saga and stuff to that effect will make an appearance maybe, but only time will tell. Now, next at number 8, while the game's story pretty much follows the manga and show pretty much exactly, there is going to be some new side stuff added to the game as well, like we talked about in the previous point. One of the new things we're getting is a new character, created by Akira Toriyama himself. Her name is Banyu, and she is a former member of the Ginyu Force. According to the official EU Bandai Namco Twitter account, she's only going to be a part of a short sub-quest in the game, I guess, so it doesn't really mess with the canon of the main storyline, but hey, it's still cool. It's new stuff, it's a value. Little stuff like this being tossed in the game I think is going to make it different enough so it doesn't feel like you're just reliving the storyline again that you've already experienced in the show. But yeah, Dragon Ball Z has some really cool characters, and I'm always down to get more, especially from the man himself. But anyway, let's get into the meat and potatoes at number 7. What kind of game is this? Exactly. Now, I know looking at it, you might not totally be able to tell what it is, but it is an action RPG, but also kind of a fighting game. Like, when it's time to fight the enemies, the camera kind of changes to over the shoulder and it becomes an arena fighter. Kind of similar to Jump Force if you've played that. There's absolutely no PvP here either, so the combat was designed to fit a PvE experience. So sometimes it may not be fair, so opponents might be a bit more powerful at times. Playing as Goku, you'll be able to run around areas completing main quests, side quests, diversions like fishing, all taking place in these open areas. Now, it's not an open world game though completely, instead there are different large areas you'll be visiting, unlocking more as you progress through the main story. And these areas aren't necessarily small though, like they definitely have some verticality to them, seeing that you can fly around a bunch, that is important. According to a Kotaku report, Goku won't have all of his powers right out of the gate, and you'll be unlocking more and more as Goku becomes more powerful throughout the story, kind of like in the show. In that same report, the game director Hara Ryosuke said this: "The idea is to immerse the player into what Goku is feeling in these different moments." Sounds like they're really trying to tell a Goku story, as if the title didn't already give that away, and trying to put the player in Goku's shoes while telling that story. We're down with that. Now over at number 6, just like other RPGs and kind of unlike Dragon Ball Z games, Kakarot will have a ton of side stuff that you can do and a heavy emphasis on RPG mechanics. For one, there are animals running around that you can hunt and then cook their meat at one of the many scattered campfires you can find throughout the game world. Just like other RPGs, this recovers your HP and also can buff Goku depending on what ingredients you use to cook. There are also materials to collect, like minerals scattered throughout the world, although we don't know exactly what they're used for besides trading to vendors. There are also mini games as well, such as eating, driving, and fishing, where Goku reattaches his tail and uses it to fish? I don't know. Whatever. I don't know. That's not how tails work, but hey, whatever, dude. You'll also be able to fly around and collect Z-orbs, which acts as a currency. So even though the worlds look a little empty at times, there's gonna be stuff there to keep you busy, even roaming enemies. Now over at number 5, while the game will be following a lot of the original story threads from the source material, it'll also be diving deeper into the stuff that wasn't even in the anime or the manga. In a post on the official Namco Bandai US Twitter account, it was revealed in a quote by series creator Akira Toriyama that the game will include backstories that weren't in the manga. The quote is, "Dragon Ball Z Kakarot is a full-action RPG full of the Dragon Ball universe. It also includes backstories that haven't been told in the manga, and I'm sure fans will truly be able to take a deep dive into the world." Now, yeah, that isn't like super specific about what kind of backstories they're going to be. There are a lot of gaps where we don't know what people are up to, and we can now see what was going on, like when Gohan is just knocking around between the Cell and the Great Saiyaman sagas, or as we've seen others online postulate, what Goku was up to on planet Yardrat after defeating Frieza and, learn the instant transmission technique. There's a lot of room to explore in this space, so the possibilities are pretty damn near endless, especially given how many characters there are in the universe and how only a handful are ever in the spotlight at any one given time. It could open the doors for some really cool shit. Now over at number 4, Goku is awesome. Dragon Ball Z also has a ton of other really cool characters though that I know we'd all love to see, and as expected, a lot of them are going to make an appearance in this game, seeing as how it follows the storyline of the whole show. You'll be able to call in a lot of fighters to assist you in combat. But one thing that maybe you didn't know is that you get to play as more than Goku. So far, it's been confirmed that you can play as Goku, Gohan, Piccolo, Gotenks, Vegeta, Future Trunks, and Vegito. But most of Goku's crew, like Yamcha and Krillin, are in the game as characters that you can call in as support during a battle. There are characters like Bulma and Master Roshi who are going to pop up as NPCs. Then, of course, the baddies in the game will be boss battles mostly. Honestly, it's safe to assume that we're going to see most, if not all, of the mainline Dragon Ball Z characters, even if they did do my boy Krillin dirty by making him just a support character and not a playable one, but hey, we'll let that go. Down to number 3, it's definitely worth noting that this isn't coming out from any random shovelware company, and it's actually being developed by CyberConnect 2, a studio that's no stranger to making licensed anime games. CyberConnect 2 made a name for themselves years back for being the developer of the Naruto Ultimate Ninja and Ultimate Ninja Storm games, which have been pretty well received and lauded anime arena fighters, at least for the last decade or so, as well as games like the Dot Hack series and Asura's Wrath, which, hell yeah. It's also a developer that is well versed in creating the large-scale spectacles that a series like Dragon Ball Z needs, and it'll be interesting to see how they bring those giant bombastic fights to life in a 3D space, because boy, does Dragon Ball Z get crazy towards the back half. So having a studio who's experienced with something like the Naruto games, or in particular where big ridiculous signature attacks are sort of the norm, it makes total sense. And down to number 2, just like every other RPG, Kakarot does have a pretty sizable skill tree. Seeing that there are numerous playable characters, there are numerous skill trees, with each character having their own. This is pretty cool because it's safe to assume that each character will have a skill tree that is specifically tailored to them, maybe even having each one have their own unique abilities. Now, like we mentioned earlier, you can collect Z-orbs out in the world, and you use these to level up each skill tree. There are 3 types of Z-orbs though. Each one can kind of be found in a particular part of the map. You can find green ones in the grasslands, blue ones underwater, and red ones on land, but like what seems to be more mountainous terrain. There are also soul emblems that you can earn as well, and when you use them, you'll get certain rewards, with certain combinations of them actually hooking you up with different special power-ups. So there is definitely RPG stuff here, that's what we know right now. But down to number 1, as usual, it's time for a little bit of housekeeping. Dragon Ball Z Kakarot is currently set to release on January 17th, 2020 on PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and PC. Unfortunately, there is no Switch version planned, so if you plan on playing this one portably, you're kind of out of luck. Now, as far as editions go, like any big game releasing these days, you have your choice of a ton of different versions, starting with the base standard edition that gets you the game. Next up, you have the $85 deluxe edition, which gets you the full standard edition, the season pass, and includes 2 original story episodes and 1 new story arc, a music pack, a cooking item, and the pre-order bonus. The next step up from there is the $95 ultimate edition, which gets you everything previously mentioned, plus, and I quote, 1 new way to travel, Tao Pai Pai Pillar, whatever that means. And finally, you get the $200 regular collector's edition. Now, this one gets you the game, a collectible steelbook, a hardcover game art book, and a diorama statue of Goku and Gohan, which looks really cool, and then you get all the pre-order bonus content. Now, as far as console enhancements go, the game will be X-enhanced and run at 4K on Xbox One, although the specifics really remain to be seen. We just have our fingers crossed that the PC port is actually decent. We'll see, though. Thankfully, the remainder of our questions will be answered on January 17th. But if you're a Dragon Ball fan and you're looking forward to this game, we would love to hear from you. That's the stuff we think you need to know to get caught up if you've been living under a rock. Let us know anything in the comments about DBZ Kakarot, anything you want, your hopes and dreams, anything at all. And if you enjoyed this video and maybe we taught you something, clicking the like button is the best way you can help us out. And if you're new, consider subscribing and hitting that notification bell because we put out videos every single day. But either way, thanks for watching. We'll see you guys next time.